I'm here with Laura Hancock, who's a multifaceted person. You've just given a talk at the Rural Health Conference. Tell us a bit about yourself, Laura.
I would say I'm a movement mechanics and performance coach. It's probably the easiest way to describe myself. So I specialise in the biomechanics of our rural industries and rural sports, and how to treat rural people and try and educate them on self-treatment methods themselves as well, to look after themselves on a daily basis.
Is there anybody else like you in New Zealand, do you think, at the moment?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. I'm certainly very busy doing this type of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that there's a lot of people out there who truly understand the people who work within our rural industries.
Yeah.
And certainly it's been a massive eye-opener how appreciative people, particularly say all the shearers that I work with, are that I understand what they do in terms of movement, because they feel that I can resonate with them, and immediately they then are much more open to conversation about how they can help themselves.
Yeah. Tell us about your work. What is it that you're actually doing in the communities?
I treat people in clinic, so sports massage and remedial therapy and movement practices as well.
Yeah.
But I'm also going out into the communities and doing workshops, talking about self-treatment methods, but specifically designed for each rural industry. So say take shearing or equestrian athletes, or let's say sheep and beef farming, so that we specifically talk about their movement patterns and what they can do on a daily basis to help themselves as much as they possibly can, because they don't often have the access to the healthcare so readily that our urban communities do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I find that absolutely fascinating. What's taken you into this?
I think honestly, from growing up in a rural community in the UK,
yeah.
And having physical issues myself,
yeah.
and I wanted to keep active. I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. I didn't really have an option not to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And the physios and doctors that I went to kind of just went, oh, we'll just rest for a bit.
Yes.
I can't just rest for a bit. You know, your income depends on you staying physically active and trying to find a middle ground between the two. And I think that's why I've done so many different approaches to my training, is because nothing really gave me the answer that I wanted.
No.
So I added on another little bit, and then I added on another little bit, which has created a sort of peculiar mix of qualifications.
Yeah.
But one which I hope is much more tailored to rural people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand you get involved in helping people involved in things like eventing, and so it's taking you into a whole range of supporting people working on the ground in a variety of rural communities, as well as sort of enjoying those sort of rural activities.
Yeah, rural sports as well. Shearing again is your perfect example. It's an industry. It's also a sport.
Yes.
Equestrianism is an industry. It is their daily living, but it's also a top-class sport as well in many senses.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good fun, and I get to travel around quite a bit and go and see different communities and different people.
Yeah. So I know that you gave a really dense and entertaining talk from what people said. Can you give us a short idea, just brief sort of summary of it?
Yeah. Well, we started off really by talking about the physical demands of a shearer.
Yeah.
So we literally just took shearing. We didn't talk about any of the other associated jobs within the industry, but just talked about shearing today, and what the physical demands are on the body, the weights of the sheep, and what they're having to do physically.
Yeah.
And then started to talk a little bit more about the actual biomechanics of the body and the impact that the movement patterns of shearing a sheep has upon the body.
Yeah.
And how potentially as practitioners or doctors we can have a little bit more of an open look about how we can improve their movement patterns so that they can help themselves look after themselves a little bit better, but also recover from injury quicker by being aware of what these people are doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I've been a rural GP for 25 years, and I've never sheared a sheep, and it's fun.
Hard, so hard.
But I've certainly seen lots of people who've come in with injuries, or I'm supposed to be helping them to recover and get back to work.
Yep.
Things like I'm fencing, trying to get people to describe what it is that they do
is very hard.
It's really hard,
Yeah.
and hard for me to really sort of conceptualize that. But having somebody like yourself who's understands exactly what it involves, and being able to be very specific about the rehabilitation, it'd be great to have you working in my community. Other any gaps that you see in the way that we're educated, or the way that health professionals, like I'm thinking about our local physiotherapists, what in terms of the training that we provide?
Yeah, I just don't think, unfortunately, I don't think the knowledge is really out there specifically to industries and sports within the rural communities. And, it's not within our training as practitioners to learn specifically about movement itself, unless we're personal trainers or biomechanics. And movement really is the end goal, but that's not included within the training. But there's also no direct knowledge put in with our training about each industry, because they are so very, very specific. But there's also then therefore the lack of knowledge from practitioners to be able to help those people help themselves really in the long goal. So unfortunately, I think there are slightly two gaps in the market. One is the education of the practitioners, and one is the education of the people themselves, how to look after themselves so they're not so reliant upon the healthcare system. Are there any solutions to that? I hope so.
Yes.
I hope so. We're currently working on a couple of ideas to try and develop some workshops within the rural communities to help them learn about self-treatment methods. And looking at trying to develop some more practitioner education using video footage and anatomical knowledge, and then rehab protocols from that to learn about the industries themselves.
Oh, that would be fantastic. That would be really, really useful. And I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like that.
As far as I know, even worldwide, there's not anything that is specifically rural for that. And all the biomechanics courses available are all very large. They're not an overview for the more general practitioner. They're much more specific in ways that aren't necessarily going to help us help people on a daily basis.
And we all know in New Zealand, our rural industries are vital to the health of our economy.
Absolutely.
And keeping our people well working in those industries is vital to that.
For the economy.
And it sounds like you've got
a task ahead of
unique
myself.
skills and building up some resources to actually make that happen.
I hope so. I hope so. It'll be a long old task, but I think it's, in my view, it's something that would help a lot of practitioners as well as people within our rural communities.
Oh, well, good luck, and I hope that we see more of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.